It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. All right, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. Starts for me this weekend. I mean, we're here a couple days next week, but Trans-Siberian Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon.
All right.
So,
all right.
Going to the afternoon show. You know, I don't like to stay up too late. Right. So I'm going to the matinee.
You know, go to the matinee, hit the diner on the way home, watch some Matlock, and in bed by 5:30.
I mean, I was a little disappointed. I mean, the
get
show,
your heavy metal in, before 5 p.m. That's when I'm in the home later in life. Like, Mr. Harley, you're going to have this after 5. You got to turn down the 5-finger death punch. You're bothering Lisa next door.
That's almost like the Jim Brewer bit.
Yeah.
About what senior citizens' homes are going to be like when he goes in.
Well,
everybody's going to be headbanging.
I've decided there is no way, and I love Brewer, he's right on that. Because there's no way I'm not going to all of a sudden start listening to ballads by Journey. Congratulations on all the success, guys. And Neil Sean is a great guitar player. They're all very talented musicians. Jonathan Cain is a great conservative and patriot. All great at what they do, but I won't be listening to Open Arms loudly in the home.
I guarantee.
It's not going to happen.
I guarantee I'll be up out of my wheelchair and someone's gonna pay big time if I hear loving, touching, and squeezing anywhere.
Right.
I don't want that crap in my senior home.
Right. It's going to be Tool, 5-finger death punch, some Rush mixed in.
Well, I may be in more in the prog rock wing.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Tool.
Okay,
the prog metal.
Well, Steve Hackett, Saga, stuff like that. For me.
All right, all right, that's fine. That's right. You do what you're going to do.
That'll be different.
Well, it's like
you. I'm staying away from the country wing,
Mr. Harley. Mr. Harley, it's Sunday morning. You can't be cranking up "Number of the Beast" by Iron Maiden.
The best thing is, though, we're going to be dead by the time the next generation comes along. And I don't mean, people that are 30 years younger from us, just maybe 10. Mm-hmm. And that will be when Comey is in the senior citizen home and there's the Taylor Swift wing. So he and his other FBI buddies can listen to Taylor Swift.
That's the first question I'm going to ask is, do you have a Taylor Swift wing? If the answer is yes, I'm not. Sorry, that's not the home I'm going to be in.
I just made an enemy of a ton of FBI agents going, no, because Comey's a Taylor Swift fan, don't put us in that category.
Yeah, I'm not. That's not going to. I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm not going to support that. I mean, look, they can have their own home. A Swiftie for mom, whatever it is. It's Joan London doing the commercials, but it's. It's if they can have theirs, that's fine.
Oh my God!
Make sure it's at least 2 blocks away from me.
And that all started with me just saying I'm going to Trans-Siberian this weekend.
Yeah.
We went down some different paths, there, didn't we?
We did.
All right, I want to play this because we had talked about the first assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson talking about the potential fraud in Minnesota. I just want we got a ton of audio cuts we want to get through this hour because I don't know. I mean, how much do I want to be pounding on stuff Monday or Tuesday? See, this weekend's going to get me in the Christmas mode.
Yeah,
and I'm not there yet where I stop pounding on the people that I disagree with politically. I'm not there, but I have a feeling after Trans-Siberian on Saturday, it's going to be like, okay, it's too close to Christmas.
Yeah.
So let's get the pounding in now. No,
all right.
No, but I want to play this here because it's really interesting. They're saying they don't know. They have no idea. It's way over what we think, which means it's way over the $1 billion, but they don't even know yet.
Yeah, right.
Here it is.
I spoke in the fall about the iceberg I saw ahead. Something's fraud that's much larger than what's been visible to the public. When I said that, it wasn't hyperbole or rhetoric, it was a warning. And today I want to talk and I want to show here a sense of what that iceberg looks like, because I think people deserve to know what that is and how big this problem is, because we can't solve the problem until we grapple with the size of it. So the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services pulled the claims data for these 14 programs dating back to 2018. And those 14 programs in Minnesota have cost $18 billion since 2018, and more than $3.5 billion in 2024 alone. So that's a sense of the magnitude of the problem. These are the 14 Medicaid programs, which is just a part of Medicaid, these waivered services that have been flagged as having issues with program integrity and fraud. Now, I'm sure everyone is wondering how much of this $18 billion was fraud. It's not the $1 million question, that's the $18 billion question. The answer is far too much, and the task ahead of all of us is not only figuring out how much of that money was fraud, because we know a significant amount was, but figuring out how to put an end to the fraud in our state and get control of it. So let me end with this before I take questions. The magnitude of the fraud in Minnesota cannot be overstated. It's staggering amounts of money that have been lost. But it's not just about the money that's been stolen and wasted. This is a problem that's caused all of us to question what kind of state we live in. I think it's eroded our sense of collective statewide self-esteem and confidence. It's caused we have a state, as I've said before, that has long taken pride in having a strong economy, good schools, beautiful lakes, mini parks, and a sense of community spirit and civic mindedness. This fraud really calls into question all of that. And I know that it's gone on, it's been allowed to go on far too long. And we need to do whatever we can to stop it in its tracks.
The interesting thing is he's not talking about the convictions already and the amount of $1 billion.
Right.
He's talking about this is everything they're looking at now into the future, and they're like, they don't know where this is going to go. Mm-hmm. They can't even speculate.
Right.
And he shows, how much of it's fraud. And he just basically said, anything of the $18 billion. They don't know how much of it's fraud.
Right. How many different cases might there be because of how many different people might be involved in that fraud, right? That's why you can't measure how much of it is fraud, is because there could be a number. I don't, and who knows what that is. But I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, I get the feeling that, and I did not hear him say that earlier this year, but I get the feeling that this is far from over in terms of what they're going to discover. My gosh. What a heaping, steaming pile this is.
I know. I was thinking, what would be an impossible job if I'm part of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota? It's like, okay, we need to start. Let's start from the beginning. What a task that has to be.
Because you're going to have to, they go through everything chronologically, but every dollar that was spent, every recipient that got anything, any group or organization that got anything, everything has to be audited, all of it.
And I don't think I'm wrong from what I got from that press conference, that the $1 billion, that's what we already know.
Right. Yeah.
We know there's a lot more. We just don't know how much it is.
Right.
And we can't even speculate. And they put, last I saw, 60-something people have already been charged and or convicted.
Right.
In all of this. And it's like, so there's more? Any idea how many more people are involved in it? They don't know.
Right.
But they just assume if the fraud was this easy, whatever signs they see shows them there's a ton more fraud in this particular system. And think about it, there was perfect liberalism because identity politics was involved in it, as we all know.
Exactly.
Wait a minute, if you accuse these people of stealing, you're a racist.
Right.
That's a great thing. Everybody will back off if we call them a racist.
And think about the nature of it, too, because it isn't necessarily organized, but it is, to a large extent, comes from a group of individuals, but it doesn't mean that group of individuals are all working together in every case to commit every act of fraud.
Right. Not all of the 60 or whatever it is were in cahoots with each other. They might have been in cahoots with a smaller group of people.
Well, it just could have been, again, this common knowledge that, hey, it's pretty easy to get away with this. And then all of a sudden, boom. And it's, again, not necessarily organized. In other words,
some of those nonprofits were organized. I mean,
they were, but not every one. And the point is that in a situation like this during an investigation, you go in and go, okay, who was in charge of this? Who got you involved in this? And who got you involved in this? Well, if they're not all connected, who knows how many different cases there might be? The point is if there was this massive hole in the fraud and it was well known, it didn't require that all of those bad actors act together or even know each other. And that's why there is this huge, massive question mark over all of this. And I can't imagine the pile of work ahead of investigators. I mean,
no.
Holy cow.
And you just see how the look on his face as he's explaining it, like, do you know how big this thing is? And you see everybody standing behind him, and they just got blank faces like, oh, my God, is this bad?
Yeah.
It was really an interesting press conference to see the other day when he was talking, because it's like, wow, they don't even know. They know there's fraud, but they don't even have a hand. They've been investigating this for a while, and they still don't know how far this could go. But from when I got it, look, the $1 billion, that's already what we know. Mm-hmm. What we don't know is how much more of the $18 billion.
Right.
And people ask, well, how do you know how much it would be? And he's trying to make the case up to $18 billion.
Could be up to $18 billion.
Now, we know it isn't because some of those programs are used, but he's just saying we don't know how far the fraud goes.
Right. You pretty much have to audit every dollar of that $18 billion.
Yeah, that's the point. And what a job that is.
Oh.
Go through every transaction that was done from all those 14 different waivered programs and every single group and every single person that was involved.
Yep, it's a full audit.
In putting in an application and receiving any money.
Yep.
It's just, wow.
Which means you're probably going to have to question people that had nothing to do with fraud and received the money legitimately. But that's part of the process in auditing that and doing the investigation is you're going to have to walk through from beginning to end every bit of that $18 billion.
You know the best lines I saw? Like, why are they screaming racism? Tim Walz is white. Oh, my gosh, it was great. It was like,
right. Exactly.
But, it was perfect liberalism all around.
Yes.
We'll steal, and then we'll call you a racist if you say we're stealing.
Right.
Perfect cover.
Well, and then if you came up, if you told this story and at the end of it you said, oh, and by the way, the governor at that time is Tim Walz, my answer would be, well, of course it's Tim Walz. This is such a Tim Walz situation. This is a guy who, honestly, has no business in public office.
No.
None.
I know.
He's absolutely clueless, agenda-driven, angry at times. We've seen him. And has no business leading anybody.
One of the best stories that came out of it was the employee group, the public employees group that knew this was going on.
Right.
They've been pounding, going, no, they knew.
Right.
And when they said, we actually wrote a letter to Kamala Harris to tell her that her vice presidential candidate was incompetent.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, that was so funny.
The
First time I read that, I went, that he's incompetent?
Yeah, they're writing her about picking someone who's incompetent?
I know. We are Red Eye Radio.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators with authority generally have two options when it comes to sourcing freight. Brokers on the spot market or directly from the source, the shipper. As any trucker with relatively recent experience with spot freight knows, the highs of working the load boards can be really high. On the other side of that coin, however, when the market flips in favor of shippers, it can be tough to keep your business afloat working with brokers. The smallest carriers with direct customers, however, can hang on through tough times or even prosper, as long as demand for their customers' product remains at least somewhat stable. Owner-operators in it for the long haul make direct business with customers a principal goal. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. A jury found Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan guilty of obstructing federal immigration agents during an attempt to serve a warrant at a courthouse earlier this year. She faces up to 5 years in prison on the felony obstruction count. She was arrested in April after helping an illegal immigrant avoid plainclothes immigration and customs enforcement agents who were trying to serve him a warrant. Prosecutors say Dugan helped the illegal immigrant and his attorney exit her courtroom through a back door on April 18th after learning that ICE agents were in the building to arrest them. We are disappointed in today's outcome. The failure of the prosecution to secure convictions on both counts. They didn't find her guilty on the misdemeanor count of concealing an individual to prevent arrest, but they did again find her guilty on the felony, which was obstructing federal immigration agents. The defense says we see that as an opportunity to clear Judge Dugan's name and show she did nothing wrong in this matter. That's going to be very, very tough. You know, they went to the fact that they had the administrative warrant for the illegal immigrant, and they were out in the hallway saying, well, no, that isn't enough to take him. And they're like, yeah, it is. No, it wasn't. And the defense is trying to claim that because she didn't know the difference between the two warrants and didn't know that, no, they had a right to be there, that's her justification that her intent was not to obstruct.
I don't buy that.
Neither do I.
Don't buy that for a second.
No.
Don't buy that for a second.
I was reading that. I started laughing, actually, when I read that one. I go, really? That's what you're going with?
Right.
Well, the jury wasn't convinced of that. They tried to use that. The jury wasn't convinced.
Of course. And how many judges have said ignorance of the law is no excuse? You know, this is, well, I didn't know that's what it did. No, I don't buy that. I don't buy it. I don't buy that she was ignorant of the facts. This was a deliberate act based on the evidence that you can see that we know of, and we weren't even sitting there during the trial.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio, Season's greetings from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. You know, I think really the testimony of one of the other judges, really hurt Judge Dugan in this case. This is an excerpt, again, from Wisconsin Public Radio, just so people don't think there's a bias that would be naturally against Judge Dugan. It said a fellow Milwaukee County judge told jurors Tuesday afternoon that she felt irritated and abandoned by Judge Hannah Dugan during an incident that eventually led to Dugan facing criminal charges and now the conviction, a felony conviction. The testimony from Judge Cristela Cervera came on the second day of Dugan's federal trial. Prosecutors alleged that Dugan obstructed law enforcement when she led a man through a side door of her courtroom in April. That's after federal agents had showed up to arrest the man for being in the country illegally. Cervera, who worked on the same floor as Dugan, recalls Dugan motioning to her with a sense of urgency after the agents arrived Monday morning. She recalls Dugan telling her, "ICE is here. We need to check a warrant." Cervera said she started to unzip her robe, but Dugan told her to keep it on. She did keep the robe on as she followed Dugan into the hallway, but she said she felt uncomfortable to do so. Cervera said told jurors the robe conveys a sense of ceremony that's only basically supposed to be reserved for the courtroom. Right. Not supposed to wear it outside. Mm-hmm. She described herself as being a little confused and said Dugan seemed irritated at that point. While in the hallway, Dugan asked a pair of agents for a warrant and asked what kind of a warrant they had. They told her that they had an administrative warrant, which is a warrant signed by U.S. Department of Homeland Security official. Dugan asked whether they had a warrant signed by a judge. The agents said they did not. Dugan demanded a warrant signed by the judge. After that, her irritation seemed to progress into anger, Cervera testified. Dugan said 3 times in quick succession, "It needs to be a judicial warrant. It needs to be a judicial warrant. It needs to be a judicial warrant." Cervera echoed Dugan's viewpoint, telling the agents, "I think she's right about that." During testimony Monday, the defense team did not dispute that an administrative warrant is sufficient to bring in the man into custody. Nonetheless, Dugan's attorneys have argued that Dugan's belief that a judicial warrant was required is relevant to her mindset and motivation. Well, if you want to know why the jurors probably didn't go for that, Cervera told the court she wasn't well-versed at the time in the difference between the two types of warrants when it comes to immigration law. After Dugan directed the agents to Chief Judge Carl Ashley's office, they were going to go to his office to work this thing out. All right? You go to the chief judge. All right, what do we do here? Mm-hmm. The agents went. Cervera said she eventually escorted the agents to Ashley's office since it can be difficult to find. She assumed that Judge Dugan would follow alongside them to deal with the issue, but realized once she arrived at the office that Dugan had returned to her own courtroom. At that point, Cervera said she felt abandoned by Judge Dugan. This is one judge saying she felt abandoned by the other judge. She was able to get back to her calendar after pulling me out of my court. I don't like the public waiting. When Cervera returned to her own courtroom, she said a public defender pumped his fist and said, "Go, Judge." She said another public defender told her, "Judge, you're goated now." She said she understood that the slang reference meant greatest of all time, but she did not understand why somebody was saying that to her. After she realized what the attorney was referencing, Cervera said she was mortified. Judges should not be helping defendants evade arrest, Cervera said.
She was used as a shield.
Yep. On Monday, after the Friday morning incident, Cervera ran into Dugan at the courthouse. She said Dugan told her she was in the doghouse with Carl. That's the big judge that they were going to work this whole thing out, find out who was right on it.
Right.
And she just didn't go and let the illegal immigrant out the back door, let him out.
Right.
She told, I'm in the doghouse with Carl, a reference to Chief Judge Carl Ashley, because I tried to help that guy. During the cross-examination, Dugan's attorneys asked Severa whether she ever told Dugan she was uncomfortable keeping her robe on in the hallway. If I'm a juror, I'm not even paying attention to that. And Severa admitted that she did not. So there you go. So that I think that really hurt. That hurt the case because it doesn't matter. I mean, the whole intent, whether it's not. Once you said once everybody agreed, we're going to the Chief Justice's office to find out
for a review
of this right now.
Yep.
And she left the group.
Right.
And she let him out the back door.
Right.
That's where it became.
Right. She was using the other judge as a cover, as a shield, so she could go back and release the illegal immigrant
and not
out the back door.
And not going to the judge's office and letting him out. That's right there. That behavior is the obstruction of justice.
Yep.
So you can't even, doesn't even, to me as a juror, it doesn't matter whether she didn't know that whether it was a judicial warrant or an administrative warrant.
In fact,
that doesn't matter at that point.
You've hurt yourself by that because you weren't even to show up. You weren't even willing to show up at the review to find out more information on that.
And you were just going to go down the hallway, whatever it was, to his office, say, here's what they have here. What's the correct procedure?
Right.
And then he makes the call.
So you had opportunity to learn more about it, and you blatantly disregarded that opportunity in order to commit this act. You hurt yourself by using that as a defense. And using the other judge basically as a shield. You know, let's set up this and go down to the Chief Justice and see what we can do here. And then you don't show up because you're going to go commit this act.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just, when you think about it, you're talking about a judge.
Yeah. Right.
My God. I mean, it's just like, you threw your entire career away.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say even hypothetically, and I don't know how this would be thrown out on appeal with the evidence that you have. We could be always missing something. We didn't, we weren't sitting in there as the jurors were.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, it could be something technical. You never know. I'm sure they're going to appeal, but she can't be a judge anymore.
No.
It doesn't matter whether she broke the law or not. They don't. You can't do that. You can't throw one judge under the bus,
even if you're cleared
did.
Legally. This is misconduct. You've crossed an ethics line here clearly. And in my opinion, she crossed a legal line.
Oh, I agree with you. I think the felony conviction is completely legit. Now, whether she'll get time in jail or not, is another thing. I mean, it's her. From what I know, it's her first offense, so she may not get jail time, but she's destroyed her career.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there and you think of liberalism today, and you just go, "What gets into their mind? What gets into their mind? Do they not fear the consequences? Do they feel they're bulletproof?" No, I mean, she knew that the chief judge, was furious at her for doing it.
Right. And look, it really is the mindset of many on the left. They think they're the hero. She turned that robe into a cape. Superhero moment.
Yeah. And finally, we had promised this for you. This is CNN's Harry Enton. We talked about this earlier about the Republicans and the opportunity that they have.
Mm-hmm.
This is after the inflation report came in. We'll see in December, because there's a lot of incomplete information in this one because of the government shutdown. We'll see if December mirrors it. That could be a good thing. Has the public yet felt the reduction in prices on most things that they use every day? No, that hasn't happened as of yet. But I hope it happens, because the Democrats right now are in the toilet. They're in the toilet right now. Here's CNN's Harry Enton on what the public thinks of the Democratic Party.
That's right now.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 5 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this, negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
That's independents and overall, but what about Democrats on Democrats?
Yeah, what about Democrats on Democrats? So part of the reason overall is so low is independents are driving it low. But that's not the only reason it's so low. What about Democrats on Democrats? Democrats' net approval rating of congressional Democrats. I want you to keep in mind, they had never rated Democrats negatively until this year. And right now, what are we talking about? We're talking about a net approval rating from Democrats. This is Democrats on Democrats. Their approval rating is actually lower than the disapproval rating, and that is quite the drop from October. I think during the shutdown, there was a bit of a boost for Democrats, right? There was a rallying around the flag effect going on. But Democrats did not like how that shutdown turned out. They have returned against Democrats in Congress, and you mentioned Dan Goldman in that intro. One of the reasons that Dan Goldman is in trouble right now in a potential primary against Brad Ladner is because at this point the Democratic base is so upset with Democrats. So even if Democrats take back Congress, don't be surprised if Dan Goldman ain't there because of numbers like this one.
And you can't get more insane left than Dan Goldman.
Yeah, right.
And he still isn't insane left enough. Because remember, part of that is the insane left. Don't assume that these are, good. Independents, independents may okay, they're just too radical for us, the Democrats. But you see that switch, which is 29 points from October to now, and I think the most of those are the insane Democrats who just went, all right, you're not far left enough. You're not far left enough. You're not far. So really they're getting it from both sides of it that you're too far left, and then from Democrats, no, you're not insane left enough.
Well, and this is quite possibly the inevitable of what we have been talking about with identity politics, because you're never going to appease the radicals. You're not going to be radical. I don't care who you are. You're not radical enough for the radical base. Whoever you are as a candidate or in office at the moment, you're not radical enough. And then you have the rest of the rank and file Democrats that are looking at it and going, you guys are off the charts too radical.
But what's the result? The results are the radicals in the Democratic Party are the ones with this incredible confidence. AOC yesterday, I could trounce J.D. Vance. Jasmine Crockett, Texas has been waiting for me.
Right.
And so what the Mamdani victory in New York City, you see it, and they're getting so much publicity from all the media. All the media is covering them. AOC is confident now that she can win the presidency in 2028.
Yeah.
Newsom, he's at the bottom. So we're looking at Kamala Harris, AOC, Jasmine Crockett.
Oh, please.
Zoran Mamdani.
Make that debate stage happen.
I mean, the opportunity Republicans is there like it's never been before because the Democratic Party is absolutely nuts.
Yep. I want to see that primary. I'd love to see that primary
the debate
come
stage.
Together. Oh, my gosh. Kamala Harris, AOC, and then Jasmine Crockett decides she's going to run for president.
And then Hillary says, we just can't have these radical women. I've got to try one last time. And Hillary gets in there.
And she jumps in and loses big time. Newsom gets up there with his bobblehead. Newsom loses big time.
Newsom is labeled as the misogynist.
Exactly.
We don't need white men running.
Another white man in charge. We don't need that. No, thank you.
Oh, the possibilities of entertainment there.
Right. Tim Wall's in the audience crying.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wasn't that sad about the plane crash? Former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle.
Yeah.
He was killed. His wife, two young kids, and he did a lot last year during those terrible floods.
He did. He did. For a lot of the victims, and was really. I mean, he was somebody who really gave back during and after his career, after retirement, and just shocking news. Sad story. One of the developments that came up was that his wife had texted her mom in the moments before the crash, "We are in trouble," and not sure how they knew, but clearly they knew based on that text. But just a sad situation.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.